Yeah, if you ain't talking about that large money, then that conversation ain't at all for me. Too many niggas satisfied with just call money. A new chain, couple bottles at the bar money. We need that. 2 acres for the yard money. Diversified portfolios and bond money. Pull a few strings, that guitar money. Try to run up on me? Nah, money. Getting at it from the AM to the PM. Smooth fat boy, that's a door by your BM. They love it when they see him. We still in the hood, but we on top like the alternators in the GMs. You feeling this?
Welcome to G5Jeff TV. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button as you come on in. Big shout out to all the sponsors of the channel. All the information is in the description box. And follow your boy on Instagram and Twitter at BoxingFirst Now, I was reading an article on BoxingInsider.com. It was written by my boy Shane. Big shout out to him. He plays a big part in my channel on a regular basis. So definitely big shout out to him. And his article was about Philly fighters. A couple of Philly fighters taking losses recently, and is the Philly boxing scene falling off? And it was a great article because not only is Shane not from Philly, he's not even from the United States. He's from the UK, and he made a lot of really good points in that article. So I'll definitely put a link in the description box for you guys so you can read it. Now, after reading the article, it got me to thinking. I was just like, you know what? I was like, damn, like, is top Philly fighters really falling off, or should we not panic? Now, for the people that don't know who I'm talking about Jesse Hart. He took a loss to Joe Smith Jr. We're talking about Julian J. Rock Williams. He took a loss to Jason Rosario. We're talking about Tevin Farmer. He took a loss to Jojo Diaz. And we're talking about Danny Garcia. Now, Danny Garcia got a victory over Ivan Redcash, but I'm going to get into why I mentioned Danny Garcia in this equation. Now, I had to sit back and think about it. Are top Philly fighters really falling off? And I had to take away the fact that I'm from Philly. I had to take away the fact that I like all of these guys, not only as fighters, but as people. I also had to take away the whole Philly support, Philly thing. And I had to honestly just put on my boxing glasses and my lab coat and really get down to it. Are these fighters falling off? Now, overall, I'm saying don't panic. Don't panic when it comes down to Jesse Hart. Do not panic when it comes down to Julian J. Rock Williams. Do not panic when it comes down to Tevin Farmer. Do not panic when it comes down to Danny Garcia. But I'm going to break down why I say that about each guy in this particular video. Now, let's start off with Jesse Hart. Jesse Hart, really good dude, period. Like, I've talked to him several times, like off camera, and really good guy. Grew up not that far apart, and you know, he's part of the Philly boxing fabric, period. And Jesse Hart did a tremendous job of promoting his fight with Joe Smith Jr. Everything that he said in terms of promoting the fight was authentic. Bernard Hopkins was and still is his mentor to this day. He thinks very highly of Bernard Hopkins. Is almost like a father figure. And the fact that Joe Smith knocked out Bernard Hopkins, yeah, it didn't sit well with Jesse Hart. So all of that in terms of promotion was true. It was facts. There was nothing false about that. Here's the thing. It happened so long ago that Jesse Hart was probably one of the few people that was still thinking about that. So even though Jesse Hart felt that way, the city moved on from that. The city moved on from that. But the main thing with Jesse Hart is he took a bad loss against Joe Smith. Like, I do believe there's different types of losses. Jesse Hart took a bad loss. Like, not only did he lose, but he really didn't go out on his shield either. But this is why I say do not panic when it comes down to Jesse Hart. This is a well-known fact in Philly. Is no excuse like Jesse Hart fought the way he fought against Joe Smith. Bottom line is Jesse Hart did hurt his hand prior to that fight. He hurt his hand in the last sparring session before that fight. I knew it. A bunch of people that I know in Philly knew it going into that fight. We still thought Jesse Hart was going to win that fight, even with a bad hand, and it just ended up not working out for him. Now, I did an interview with Jesse Hart before the fight was even announced, and he said to me that he only moved up to 175 to fight Joe Smith. He only moved up to 175 to fight Joe Smith. I'm saying don't panic when it comes down to Jesse Hart strictly because I think he's going to go back down to 168. Like, it's a lot of matchups at 175 that I do not like for Jesse Hart. I think Jesse Hart he has a lot of physical tools that a lot of other fighters wish that they had. A lot of athletic ability just for his height, his size. Like, he has a lot of physical talent. It's just some technical stuff that needs to get cleaned up. You know what I'm saying? It really needs to get cleaned up. But he is extremely talented. He's extremely talented. He just has to put it together from a boxing standpoint. It's like a cross between he wants to showcase his boxing skills, but then at the same time he kind of gets into this Rocky mood too. Like, now that didn't happen in the Joe Smith fight. I'm just talking about him in general as a fighter. So we're still kind of waiting for Jesse Hart to kind of just put it all together because he can be a championship level fighter. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with Gilberto Ramirez twice, and there's some people that felt like he won the second fight. So don't panic on Jesse Hart. Has some other circumstances in terms of his fight with Joe Smith. He took a loss fair and square, but I'm not worried about Jesse Hart going forward as long as he goes back down to 168. Now, second person we're going to be talking about is Julian J. Rock Williams. Now, I was at the weigh-in for Julian versus Jason Rosario, and I seen Julian J. Rock Williams before he weighed in on TV. He didn't look good. After the weigh-in, he didn't look good. And let me tell you guys this, and this is inside information. Like, I didn't reveal this until after the fight. I got a call, like, the morning of the fight. Now, even though the fight was in J-Rock's hometown of Philly, J-Rock still had to stay at the hotel where all of the other fighters were staying. Like, he couldn't stay at home. Like, you know, it's PBC. You got to protect the investment. Got to protect the main event. Like, Philly, it goes down in Philly, so you want to keep him along with all the other fighters. Now, somebody pulled the fire alarm at the hotel. So it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I was told the morning of the fight that happened, and they seen Julian J. Rock Williams, and he looked bad. He looked like bad, like drained, and he looked like he wasn't doing well. So that when I say that was from a credible source, that was from a very credible source. And on top of that, I also got word the morning of the fight that Julian had a sparring session with someone in Philly that's known in boxing circles in Philly in terms of the Philly gyms. And his reputation is he's always backing up. He's always counterpunching. There's not an aggressive bone in this boxer's body. It said Julian J. Rock Williams was looking so bad in the sparring that this actual boxer was actually moving forward and walking down Julian J. Rock Williams. J. Rock didn't get knocked down or knocked out in that sparring session, but it was alarming to the people that was at the gym. Those are things that I know for a fact prior to the fight. So when I watched the fight against Jason Rosario and I was there live, I was not surprised how it turned out. The reason I'm saying do not panic when it comes down to J-Rock is because, number one, he has a rematch clause. Number two, he was either weight drained or he was sick or both prior to that fight. They'll never admit it. Breadman will never admit it publicly, but privately, we in Philly, we all know what it is. So to say that Julian J-Rock Williams was 100% for that fight, that just wasn't the case. And a lot of fighters are not 100% going into a fight. But J-Rock was bad off. Reason I'm saying do not panic on Julian J-Rock Williams is strictly because he has a rematch clause. And I think him fighting at home was a bad idea. The same thing that Jarrett Hurd suffered from when he fought J-Rock at home was the same thing J-Rock suffered from when he fought Jason Rosario at home. There's other stuff that I know about J-Rock prior to that fight that wasn't beneficial to him and basically put him in that same lane as Jarrett Swift Hurd when he fought at home. But I ain't gonna get into all of that, as far as that's concerned. But I wouldn't be concerned about J-Rock because I think for the rematch, I think he's not going to be fighting at home. He's going to be able to switch things up and go back into grind mode. And, he's a better fighter than Jason Rosario. Let's just keep it real. He's a better fighter than Jason Rosario. Had a bad night. And Jason Rosario was good enough to capitalize on that. And congratulations to him. But I wouldn't worry about J-Rock going forward. Third person, Tevin Farmer. Now, with Tevin Farmer, from what I was told, he had a good camp. Absolutely nothing was wrong. Weight was fine. Going into the fight against Jojo Diaz, and they did great promotion for that fight. And Tevin Farmer, with his style, he's one of the best defensive fighters in the sport. He's going to always be one of the best defensive fighters in the sport. But when you have a guy that has that type of a style where they really highlight their defense, going into a fight against a guy that's not only competitive but active offensively, the question is, how much is Tevin Farmer going to make them pay? Tevin Farmer's going to make his opponent miss, but how much is he going to make them pay? How heavy of a price is he going to put on them when he's making them pay? That was the difference in the fight with Jojo Diaz. There's certain punch combinations you could throw on Tevin Farmer and pivot, and you're not going to get anything back. And that's essentially what happened in the Jojo Diaz fight. Jojo Diaz did a great job in that fight. To be honest with you, I only gave Tevin Farmer, off the top of my head, I might have gave him 2 rounds. I think it was round 2 and another round, and that was it. I thought Tevin Farmer was going to win that fight. I ended up being in the hospital prior to the fight and during that fight, so I didn't get a chance to put no money on it. I'm glad I didn't, because I'd lost all my money. But Jojo Diaz did a great job in that fight. Now, Tevin Farmer said on Instagram, no, it was Twitter, after the fight, that he felt like it was something wrong with his body, like he didn't have no energy, so he was like, he's going to have to change things up. Now, I'm not saying he's lying about that. If he said his body wasn't feeling right, it wasn't feeling right. But I think if that's the case and everything went well during camp, it might be a situation where Tevin Farmer might just need to move up. He might need to move up in weight. And I'm going to assume that's what that is. And if that's the case, as long as Tevin Farmer moves up in weight from 130 to 135, maybe that'll make the difference in terms of his body feeling right on fight night. And I just think he has enough skill, period, just to overcome this loss. So I wouldn't worry about Tevin Farmer going forward. And then Danny Garcia. Now, Danny Garcia got the victory, but Danny Garcia had a problem with weight going into this fight against Ivan Redcash. And Danny Garcia, he said after the fight inside of the ring that he had to lose like 25 pounds in 8 weeks, which is not a bad weight cut, period. It's not a bad weight cut. That's more common than anything When guys are losing 35, 40 pounds, that's when you really got to worry. Now, he said that on TV, but Danny Garcia was about 35 pounds overweight, not in 8 weeks. I would say probably more like 5. Say more like 5. So that's why he had to strip down to the birthday suit and, make weight and all that good stuff. Now, if Danny Garcia would have walked into a fight with Errol Spence like that, he'd have lost. And Danny Garcia is scheduled to fight either Errol Spence or Manny Pacquiao next. And that was the reason why he fought Ivan Redcash, because he's a southpaw. Now, Danny Garcia will be the underdog in either one of those fights. But the reason I'm saying do not panic when it comes down to Danny Garcia is because even if he does lose to a Manny Pacquiao or a Errol Spence Jr., I think he will be competitive in both fights. And he still would be a top name at 147 going forward. And to basically cap off this video, we got a lot of young pups coming up in the game. Sharon Boots Ennis. You got Cool Boy Steph Fulton Jr. You got Damon Allen. It's fighting March 27th at the 2300. The Professor, Michael Fox. You got Nafir Charles. You got a bunch of young pups out of Philly, just on the local scene. Guys that's starting their careers, to guys that are like 10-0, 11-0, 15-0. You know what I'm saying? So Philly future is looking bright. And we got a lot of great cards coming into Philly thanks to promotional companies like King's Promotions. But Philly boxing is looking bright in terms of the young stars, the young pups that's coming up. And then the top Philly fighters right now, the most well-known fighters in Philly right now, are kind of on the downside. But I just wouldn't panic. I think they're going to come back stronger and better than ever. It's just they took a loss. And that's just what it is. And I think the most popular fighter in Philly, which is Danny Garcia, if he goes up against Errol Spence, he has a legitimate shot. He goes up against Manny Pacquiao, he has a shot. And whether he wins or loses, he's still going to be the top most popular fighter in Philly. And I think he'll be fine going forward as well. Now, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. G5Jeff TV, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Please share this video. Support your boy. Support good content at all times. I appreciate y'all. Peace.